You're going to want to see it. Absolutely. So you guys, I'm going to go rest my voice and have a great night, everybody. Bye-bye.
Okay, well, I don't know if anybody can hear me out there in YouTube land, but type on there if you can. If you can hear me, please let me know. I'm having all kinds of issues with my program. So for some reason, my video camera decided not to work. You can hear me. Okay. Thank you, guys. And I guess I'm going to be on this alone. I don't know. So we're just going to have to make do with this the way it is. For some reason, my camera just quit working. I had them work on my computer just the other day, and they had to do some remote stuff with my speakers weren't working correctly when I plugged in an external monitor, and I think somehow that affected the camera. So I apologize for the lack of video. You guys could all hear me okay. Can you see the Homestead Network logo? Do you have that much on there? I don't know how long our lag is going to be here, but okay. Sorry about the confusion and delay, folks. I've been hacking at this thing trying to get my camera to work. It is not functioning, so I'm afraid it is what it is. Okay, you guys can see the logo. Great. So I can put the logo up and I can put pictures up. I just can't have my camera on my phone on my computer work. So sorry about that. I will have this fixed. I think I may just go out and buy myself a new computer tomorrow, and that way I don't have to worry about it. So, okay, well, you guys are all there. So let me go ahead and get started. I had quite a lot that I wanted to go over with everybody today. If you're going to ask me a question, I'm going to ask you to hold off for a little bit on asking any questions. Talk amongst yourselves if you like. If you're going to ask me a question, please put it in all caps so I can see it. I'm hoping Kara might come online here with me and be able to help me with that, but we'll try it this way, just to what it is. Minuteman says, Grandpa, the issue is the Windows 10 virus. Oh, lovely. Okay, well, that might be the case because my new computer's got Windows 10. So, and I have tried uninstalling it and reinstalling it. I'm going to try doing that one more time, but it's a long, lengthy process and getting all the settings set back up for OBS, which is the uploading program that I use. But we will try that. Caps are on now. Thanks, Pine Meadows. Okay, yes, I know Kara's not well. She's feeling poorly. And if she doesn't come on and help me, that's perfectly okay. Kara, I understand if you're listening. So let me start out by talking a little bit about what happened this past week. It was a big week for me. And then we're going to talk a little bit about some things that are coming up and see how things go from there. First of all, started out this week doing a couple videos, video responses in conjunction with Brad over at Big Bear Homestead. He had asked me to do some response videos to some of the stuff that he was doing, and we went ahead and did that. And I think those worked very well. Hey, Jason, if you want to call me on the phone, that'd be fine, buddy. You've got my phone number, I believe. So give me a shout. We did two videos. One of them was, can I go off the grid legally? And that was sort of an interesting topic because there's a lot of problems going on in a lot of communities. And I think, I responded to that as best I can. And then the other question is, should I go off the grid? And if you guys have been following my videos, then you know that, I'm not a big fan of going off the grid. I see, I'm pretty conscious about, what's going on in the in the ecological front with people trying to generate their own power, and so I try to to do what I can to mitigate whatever pollution that I'm creating. You know, I'm not a whack job by any means in that regard, but you know, I try to bring my own bags to the grocery store so I don't have to get the plastic ones. I did a lot of scuba diving, and I've seen, you know, turtles wrapped up in plastic bags, and so that kind of bothered me. And plastic bag impactions because they eat them thinking that they're jellyfish and stuff. So I tend to be really concerned about that. So if I'm going to live, I want to live in a way that's making the least amount of pollution possible. And in today's day and age, if you're, you know, living someplace where you've got a somewhat morally and ethical power generation company that you're working with, um, then that's the best choice. Any other option brings with it problems. Wind and solar, even hydroelectric, require battery banks, and those batteries are a huge polluter and create a lot of landfill. And then, of course, you know, there's always the other problems with, you know, it gets dark at night, or and you have bad weather, and maybe there's no wind, and so none of those are a real good, steady way of providing yourself. Best thing you can do is um, just really cut down on what it is um, that you're consuming. Try to mitigate as much as you can what you're consuming, and that way you won't have to you won't have to worry about it too much. So anyhow, then my next video that went on after that was my snooze video. I don't know how many of you guys caught that. I had a lot of fun with my snooze video, and it has worked well. I think my son is going to get on the phone now, and he's going to help me out do the caps or watching the chat for me. So let's hope that'll work pretty soon if he's there. So I did my snooze video, and then I did a video. I did a thing with the God Made a Farmer video. One of my subscribers talked about that, and I thought that went really well. So I did a video about that, and then I did a Sunday morning meditation video. And I've had some folks request that I start doing those on a regular basis. I think that would work well, having that on a regular basis, doing those once a week. So, okay, my son just called in, so I got him in background. You there to help, Carl? All right, good deal, good deal. Palmetto Paratrooper wants to know, how many children do you have, Grandpa? I have 2 sons. My sons are Carl and Vincent, and then I have a stepdaughter. Her name is Lacey. They are all now grown up. Lacey's moving to London and getting married, and Carl and Vinny live in Ohio. Carl has 2 sons. Vincent has a daughter. So Big Bear says he couldn't find my phone number. That's all right, Big Bear. We got it covered. Anyhow, so the other videos I did the Sunday morning meditation, which I think is going to be something I'm going to start doing on a regular basis. And then I did Big Bear had the 22 for 22 challenge. And so I participated in that, and I did a video about the 22 challenge. And, you know, I kind of think the way I do because I'm sort of an engineering type. And when he said 22 challenge, I naturally assumed 22 caliber is what I was thinking because I do a lot of shooting. I like my guns. And so I thought, maybe I should do a 22 gun salute with my 22 rifle. And so that's what precipitated me doing the 22 challenge video that apparently a lot of folks seem to like. Basics to living, I'm going to get to that in just a minute here. But the answer is yes, I did sell the boat. Anyhow, then I did a video on the homeowners associations. I did that at a request of one of the subscribers. They had a lot of concern about Tommy at Off the Grid. Tommy has responded, and he's thinking about it. I'm hoping I was giving him some good advice. Personally, just so everybody that's on here knows, if you haven't seen that video, I would never, ever live someplace where there's a homeowners association. Been a real estate broker most of my life. Have a lot of experience with it, and there's no way I would ever live someplace where there's a homeowners association. And then the last videos I've done, I have a couple of them that just came out, some little shorts that I did with my cell phone while en route. And I've got a very big video loading up right now that'll be coming out in the morning. It's a long one, 57 minutes of me driving down to Seward and back. So you have lots and lots of footage for those of you that wanted to see what parts of Alaska look like. Anyhow, I'm sorry, Carl, what was that? Yeah, HOAs are the devil. They really are. I haven't found an HOA yet that wasn't completely nuts. Some of them up here in Alaska, actually, and some of them that I experienced in Montana are pretty sane. You know, they kick in, some neighbors kick in a little bit of money, and they hire a guy to come in and do some snow plowing or do some road maintenance or, you know, whatever in their little communities. Some of the aero parks up here in Alaska, because we have a lot of pilots up here in Alaska, a lot of pilots. So a lot of these folks will have little subdivisions where they'll make a big runway and then put all the houses around the runway. And so they'll have a homeowners association that'll deal with the requirements for the runway and maintaining that. And so those are kind of specialized. But the HOAs that I really didn't like was the HOAs where, you know, they have architectural committees and they have to tell you how to do everything in your yard, and you know, they become, yes, USA Kiwi, they become Nazis. They really would. Palmetto says, Grandpa, you should get some video of a glacier. People would love that. I shot some footage out on my sailboat of a glacier. You know, I was in the water, obviously, in front of it. And I do have some footage someplace where we do a flight up over Denali, and you can see a lot of that up there. So we'll have to see. We'll have to see how it goes. Hi, Uncle KK. How are you? And hi to everybody else in there that's coming in. I appreciate you guys joining me. I'm sorry I had such a problem at the beginning. I was trying to work it out. Apparently, my camera on my laptop just for whatever reason crapped out. First, it was my speakers weren't working correctly, my headphones wouldn't work in it, and now the camera's not working. So I think I might just walk this computer back to Costco and get a replacement for it. So Big Bear says he missed seeing the beaver hat. Beaver lined inside, Wolverine and Wolf on the outside, and it's sitting right here next to me. But when I get the camera fixed, we can look at it. We can look at it next time if you like. Coming up, I've got a lot of exciting stuff coming up. I sold the boat, and which was great because that's given me a budget that I need to really start concentrating on getting out a lot of great content on my channel. So you're going to start seeing a big increase to that. I've got the materials on order coming in to finish my storage shed. So I'm going to be showing you guys some construction techniques, how to build a wall, how to put a roof on, how to use certain tools, kind of like some of the videos I did before where we were talking a little bit about the tools. As a homeowner, as a homesteader, as a prepper, you know, you need to know how to build stuff. I've watched some of these folks in our genre, some of the other creators, and I've watched some. I had to laugh. I don't know if any of you guys follow Casey Neistat, one of the biggest YouTubers out there. He just did some work in a loft that he rents a space in, and they built this little like loft area in the room, and it was grossly undersized. He was trying to use 2x4s for floor joist. He was going to get somebody killed, and so I think it's necessary to put a video out there on some of the safe and correct ways to go ahead and build stuff. For those of you who know how to build stuff, you may find it boring, but you know, I know how to build stuff, and I just watched Danny over at Deep South Homestead build his greenhouse, and I found it fascinating to see how he did it and what he did, and you know how he assembled it and trussed it and set it up. It was interesting. So maybe you guys might follow that same kind of thing. So anyhow, I'm kind of running out of time up here in Alaska. We're already into the middle of August, and I have a very short time between now and snow. Sorry about that. I had to take a drink. Yeah, it's coming quickly up here. It was 51 degrees this morning when I got up. Slept in, bad night sleeping today. I've been really tired. Not much sleep last couple days. So I've got to get a lot of stuff done here very quickly. I got to get the shed put up so I can move the 2 greenhouses wherever all my storage stuff was. And then as soon as I get that out of the way, then I'm going to get a backhoe in and dig trenches for my water line and sewer line to come over to the cabin so that I can have those in place before it freezes. Let's see, Oily is saying, when do you typically see winter setting in there, Grandpa? Winter is going to start setting in here. I expect our first frost to be in the next week or so. And then after that, I think it's going to start getting cold pretty quickly. We've got indicators here. There's a plant up here called fireweed. And fireweed is a great indicator. You can literally look at fireweed and see what stage of bloom it's in, and you can tell that winter is going to be coming here pretty quickly. And unfortunately, Lonely Prepper, I'm not going to be getting out of here before the snow flies. It was my intention to sell the property. I actually do have someone interested in buying the property. However, I got notice from the court that I can't sell the farm here until my divorce is final. So, and I need the money from the sale of the property here to buy what I want to buy in Ohio so I can start a new farm there. So unfortunately, all my plans have been delayed. I have to get the divorce finalized before I can move. So now here I am totally unprepared and have to get ready for winter. So I got to get firewood in, and I've got to get some water and sewer lines underground before the ground freezes. I can do the stuff above the ground even after it freezes. That's fine. I just didn't want to have to dig the trenches and try to stretch out pipe while it was frozen solid. So I'm really behind the 8 ball here time-wise. So there's going to be a lot of heavy lifting to be done here in the next really 60 days. I think in 60 days I'm going to have snow on the ground. And if I have snow on the ground in 60 days, then that snow will still be here come 1st April. Because once we get it on the ground, that's just about it for the winter. So I've got to gather up stuff and get it brought in and get it under roof as quickly as possible, get the dirt work done, get the lines in, and hopefully then I can start on the cabin addition, because if I'm going to be here this winter, I want to put a kitchen and a bathroom in. I don't know about you guys, but I really don't like the idea of using an outhouse when it's minus 30 outside. Things tend to freeze, if you know what I mean. And it doesn't make it at all pleasant. So we have to carry a little styrofoam toilet seat outside with us, because otherwise it's getting too cold. Courtney, do I have anyone helping? No, I'm afraid I'm all alone. I'm up here by myself on my 80 acres, and so just me and the Hand brothers, lefty and righty. And so pretty tight. I'm sorry, Colonel, what was that? Woody wants to know what my altitude is. I think I'm only around 600 to 1,000 feet, somewhere in there. I'm pretty low. I'm not real low. I'm not down by the water, but I'm not real high up either here. I'm in what's known as South Central Alaska, not Southeast Alaska, but South Central Alaska. I'm 200 miles south of Fairbanks and 100 miles north of Anchorage. So certainly inland Alaska, we get really cold here. We also get really warm here. We get colder and warmer than they do along the coast because we don't have the effect of the ocean. But we don't get nearly as cold as, say, Fairbanks. Fairbanks, it's not uncommon for them to see minus 50. It's not uncommon for us to see minus 30. So it does get. And thank you, Courtney. Yeah, the workload's going to be a lot, and so you guys are having an opportunity to see old Grandpa run his butt off these next couple of months. I'm going to try to film as much of it as I can, but it's going to be quite a job. So, okay. So now that I've got all that said, and that's kind of a catch up as to what I've been doing and where I'm going. Selling the boat was a huge thing to get off my mind. I was really afraid it was going to sink, and now that's over with, and it's providing me the funds to get started on a bunch of other projects here. Did anybody have any questions about any of the videos I did this past week or even before that? I do find it interesting that some folks will respond to videos I made 2 months ago, as if it just happened yesterday. So we'll see. Grandpa won't. Robin says Grandpa won't. What will I won't? I will cuddle with you, Robin Rear. Big Bear. Grandpa. Okay. I think Jason at Big Bear Homestead is getting me in trouble. Yeah, I do. Why is it every time I come to visit Grandpa says better night vision in the gaming mode? What does that mean? I'm sorry, I just scrolled up before I got a chance to look at it. Let me go back up and see that. Teresa Dean asked, why is it every time I come on Grandpa's stream, I get a banner at the top of the chat box says better night vision in the gaming mode? I don't know, Teresa. That's weird. Minuteman, you've got the same thing. Maybe it's maybe it's an ad. I don't know. The later it gets, the more freaks of the Homestead Network come out. Palmetto. Yes, that's probably very true. The Insomniac Club. You guys all go on about this Insomniac Club that Big Bear has, but it's not that late up here. Big Bear stays up till midnight, and that's only 8 p.m. for me. So he stays up till 1 o'clock in the morning. It's just 9 p.m. It's just my bedtime. So I like participating with the Insomniac Club. And for those of you that know Big Bear Homestead, you should certainly go check out his channel. The guy puts out some excellent content. He's a really good Marine. I have it too, Grandpa. I just ignored. So you guys all have that on there, huh? It's a setting for YouTube to darken the background from white to black. Huh. 4 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, only midnight in Alaska. Actually, Palmetto, it depends on the time of year. Right now, our amount of daylight that we have is about the same as anybody else in the United States. We're in that transition mode. It gets dark here around 9 o'clock. It gets light here around 6 a.m. But we're very quickly losing about 5 to 8 minutes a day. Is using an outside toilet in the wintertime like sticking your tongue to a metal pole? Yeah, it's very much like that. Outhouses tend to break down. You go to the bathroom in the outhouse and everything just sort of breaks down, and it's not a problem usually. However, in the wintertime, everything doesn't break down. Everything freezes. Weetree saying you can see it's ignored Carl Jr. What does that mean, Weetree? What did we ignore? Did we miss something? If we missed something, type it again so we can catch it. Anyhow, what I was saying is you go to the outhouse here in the wintertime, stuff doesn't break down like it normally does, and you end up getting what we call a poop sickle inside the outhouse. So sometimes we have to, and this is going to be TMI stuff, folks, but sometimes we have to use a 2x4 and break the sickle off before you sit down. Otherwise, you might make contact. And that's a reality of minus 30 in Alaska. You guys... Okay. So I was asked a question about whether we bring in, Courtney was asking about bringing in the chickens, the poultry, and the puppy. Yes, Lily lives inside the cabin with me. She's not an outside dog. She stays inside with me all the time. The poultry and the livestock on the farm, no, they stay outside. I tend not to winter over very much. All the pigs will be gone before winter time. Some of the ducks and the turkeys will all be gone. Some of the ducks and chickens will be gone. I'll be down to very few, but then I do heat the hen house. I put a heat lamp out there in the winter time to keep them from freezing. We still get freezing in there. It's not perfect, but it seems to help. Kitty, it's okay. You guys were trying to figure out the night mode. That's cool. Anyhow, so that's kind of life on the farm in the wintertime. I'll cut back and have very few critters here. So did anybody have any questions specific to any of the videos I did? I have to admit, having this video thing crap out sort of blew my whole plans. I had this whole thing I was going to be doing, and now I can't do it. So I'm out of sorts a little bit. Oh, you know what? Maybe I can do something here. Let me see if this works. Oh, you dirty dog. Believe it or not, I think my... What in the world happened there? Let me see if this works. Okay, can you guys see the video of my boat sailing away? Okay. Well, right now I'm trying to show you guys a scene of my boat swimming away. And I noticed underneath the picture of it, there's me. And I have no idea how that's working. I could not get that to work before. But if you guys can stand to just see me up there in the corner like that and really small, I'm not going to touch anything. I'm not going to mess with it. And I have no idea why it's working like that. And I have no idea why I'm up in the left corner instead of on the whole screen. But there you have it. So, very odd. Palmetto wants to ask, how far am I from Montana? I am a 4-day drive. I'm even in sync. Good deal, kitty. I'm a 4-day drive. It's 2,500 miles from me to get to Montana. 2,600 miles or so to get to Montana. Now, I've made that drive in 3 days with my excursion and just me in the truck without any women folks slowing me down, because they will tend to slow you down a lot, and I can make really good time. Mount Montana. Oh, Mount McKinley. He was asking how far is Mount McKinley, not Montana. Mount McKinley is just right over there. How far am I from Mount McKinley? I don't know, 50 miles maybe, I guess. Maybe I'm 50 miles from Mount McKinley. Yeah, I can see it from our place. Jason, was it Jason? Is that the name, Carl? Derek. Derek would like to know if I'm going to be making bacon out of the pigs. Derek, they're the only reason why I have pigs, is for the bacon. I actually make absolutely awesome bacon, nitrate-free, smoked with hickory and what do I use? I use hickory and mesquite, and I use a brown sugar and maple syrup brine for it, and I will be doing a video of that when I get to that point. But yes, they are absolutely going to be bacon. Oh, Big Bear, it's not within reach of me right now, buddy. I would do that, but I would have to get all disconnected and stuff here, and I don't have someone to go run for it, so I'm gonna have to leave it. Living Ready wants to know, how deep do I bury my water lines from freezing? I have to go 10 feet here. If I don't put it down 10 feet, then, oops, sorry about that. If I don't go down 10 feet, then we'll have frozen lines. So I got to get down pretty far. Do you live in the cabin pictured on your site? There's a cabin pictured on my site? I don't know if there's a cabin pictured on my site, but okay. Probably not. My cabin is right now is unfinished. It's a tiny 16-foot by 16-foot unfinished dry cabin. I've got lovely Typar siding on the outside because we don't have the outside siding on yet. It's your typical Typar shack for Alaska right now. But it's getting there. I'm going to be putting some cedar siding on it once I get the kitchen addition and the bathroom addition built on. Oh, okay. I think my son was telling me, I think the vision that you're seeing is the picture of the barn. Yeah, that barn is the old family barn from the old family farm in Ohio. My grandfather built that barn. My father put a new foundation underneath that barn, and I remodeled the inside of that barn, but that's the old original outside siding on it, and the people that own it now just really aren't maintaining it at all. So it probably will fall down here pretty soon. Yeah, actually, that's fine. Yeah, I was talking about the cabin. That's fine. No, my cabin is tiny, absolutely tiny. So Wayne says he went 6 foot for a grave and had to bust up all kinds of rocks. Wayne, where I'm at here is alluvial fill. So I've got maybe a foot and a half, 2 feet of topsoil with a couple feet of volcanic ash underneath that, and then miles of gravel going down from there on. Potato size gravel and smaller stuff. Living Ready says, if you're selling, why go through the effort of the additions of the cabin? Because I want a flush toilet and a shower and a laundry facility for the winter. If I'm going to be here for possibly another 2 years, which is what the lawyer is telling me it may take, I'm really tired of driving over to the local gas station 6 miles each way and paying them $4 every time I want to take a shower. It's just not conducive to maintaining somebody having to do that. I'm tired of it, so I want to put the addition on. And I think I'll be able to recover that investment by putting the addition on. We'll make the property worth a little bit more, and we'll make it a bit more marketable. Okay, who else has got a question? Mobile, Alabama, 4 to 5. Mobile, Alabama, you can just about lay your water lines on the ground. When I was down in the Florida Keys, all their water lines are just laid on the ground, and I'll tell you what, they have no cold water. Even the cold water in the Florida Keys is warm. One of the things I do like about up here is you turn the tap and you get a drink of water, you get really cold water. Teresa Dean says, just think, Carl, when you do, you'll get more in sailing. I will get more in sailing. Kathleen, so much snow, can you build a snowman? Yeah, we get a lot of snow here. We have feet of snow. Some of these are going by faster than what I saw them, Carl. Did I miss one about homeschooling? How hard would it be to get some of that volcanic ash for the kids for homeschool? I don't know. I imagine I could take a shovel and dig some up. Why would you want volcanic ash for kids for homeschool? That's an odd question. See, 3-year-old asked if you can build a snowman when it snows there. Yeah, we could build a snow monster. Courtney, we get typically we have 3 to 5 feet of snow on the ground most of the winter. It snows and then that sets down, packs down a little bit, and it snows. This part of Alaska is not like anywhere else in the lower 48. Our snow comes down and stays. When I lived like in Ohio, you would get snow and then it would melt. You'd get snow and then it would melt. Here you get snow and it just stays. Teresa Dean wants to. I'm sorry, what's that, Carl? Teresa wants to know if I'm up or down in Florida. I don't know what that means, up or down in Florida. Oh, no, we were down in the Florida Keys, Teresa. We were down in the Florida Keys. Price of the sale, if you add to it, I'm probably going to build a 16 by 20 kitchen addition and then a 10 by 12 bathroom, and I'll probably add $50,000 into the price when I do that. Grandpa, if you message me, I'll get you on a one-to-one basis and get your computer sorted out. Oh, hey, Minuteman, that would be great. Can you email me? My email address is alaskacarl@gmail.com. ALASKACARL@gmail.com. Let's see. Baby brother was born in Jacksonville, Florida. Yeah, I kind of like Florida, but right now Florida has very bad memories for me because that's where my wife left me. And if it wasn't for my son, who's in my ear now helping me out with this, I would have been stuck there without a vehicle and been homeless. So families are important. Let's see. Does he get snow? Does a bear poop in the woods? I don't know, Jason, do you? Yeah, well, I'm sure Jason does. We get lots of snow. Copious amounts of snow. The distance from my well to the cabin, 100 feet, maybe 120 feet to the well. It's not very far. It's not very far at all. It's just I'm tired of hauling water. I got to put water jugs in a wheelbarrow and wheel them back and forth. And then, I have to heat water on the stove because we don't have a hot water heater. We don't have any pressurized water. We don't have a sink for washing your hands or washing dishes. So it's just makes life difficult having to schlep water back and forth all the time. So I already have a well in place. I already have a septic system in place. So now it's just a matter of connecting them up to the cabin so that I can have, proper facilities and stuff. Lady Hawthorne 1, thank you. I appreciate that. I don't know what happened with the wife. Frankly, she just freaked out. She abandoned me down there. She left her parents here in Alaska living on this property with me. I have my in-laws living in a cabin. I built them on the property here for free. Hopefully they're leaving soon. I'm trying to get them out of here so I can sell. And Minuteman, I don't have an ability to be able to write that down. Oh, man. Hold on a second. I know what I'll do. I'll take a picture of it. Let me see if I can get that to scroll back up. Okay, got it. Anyhow, so she left and left the wife or the parents here. The daughter doesn't hear from her. It's just a bad situation. She just freaked out. I'm not sure what's going on, but she freaked out. Yes, Wayne, it is too early to talk about boobs. We have young children watching and paying attention here. So, although I did notice that Justin Rhodes was talking about them on his channel today, or was it yesterday? I guess his wife has finished nursing, and so she's having issues. It's just like having a cow or a goat. Sorry, ladies, but you got to be careful when you wean them off. You gotta do that slowly. You can't do it abruptly. You'll end up with all kinds of issues. So the same holds true with human beings. Yes, Kitty, that's correct. This is family friendly. Kitty, I don't know if you were on Big Bear's late night the other night, but we got into a rather bizarre conversation about those sorts of things. So, hey, I just realized it here. Since I'm doing the live chat, I can't get moderated. I could have fun. Nobody could whack me with a wrench. I think Kitty would probably get me anyway. If not, Wheatree might. Okay. Good dog, good woman. I choose a dog. Yeah, Woody, I couldn't agree more. There's there's just a lot to be said for that. I don't know what happened. Almost 20 years she and I were together, and she just freaked out. I'm not really sure what happened. I think she hit 40 years old and just had a little middle-aged crazy thing going on. Oh, Big Bear, we're going to bring you into this, man. You started it. You brought it on. You set the stage for it anyway. Grandpa, you are the crown. Oh, I'm the crown. Sure, you can whack me. I've been whacked by the best of them before, Wheatree. Not a problem. Okay, so what else can I talk to you guys about? I'm really glad I sold my boat. My boat was a 31-foot sailboat. I love sailboats. I do a lot of sailing. I've had boats in Seattle and up here. I was trying to buy one down in Florida. I just couldn't find one that I liked. But I really enjoy sailing. It is my dream one of these days to have a nice young lady get on the boat with me and sail around the world. So if there's any ladies out there that would think that they might like to sail around the world with Grandpa, let me know. Because that's always been a dream of something I would like to do. Wayne, thanks, buddy. I'm glad that you're here for me. And now that I've sold the sailboat, Wayne, I think I'm going to start thinking about getting something for down there in Ohio. Dog, quit. Get. I'm sorry, the dog's hitting the table and she's making the table rock, and the computer's sitting on the table. So that's what causes that. I see my live stream is a little slow from the conversation, but anyhow, yeah, when we get down to Ohio, I plan on buying something that we can use to go on the river and go for some catfish. I'm thinking maybe a pontoon boat or something might be fun. Something we could take the whole family on. Palmetto says the Atlantic is much safer to sail on. Boy, not the North Atlantic. North Atlantic can be hazardous too. I did most of my sailing on the East Coast, growing up on Long Island. Grandpa, do you know anything about the Yukon-Kuskokwim Health Corps? No, Missy, I don't. The only thing I know about Kuskokwim is they had a dog race over there that my daughter went to. But I've really not spent much time out in the villages at all. She has with her dog bushing, but I've not gone out there very much at all. That's right, Wayne. You, me, and Jay know. We'll get it, and then my sons and their families. We'll get a big pontoon boat so we can all go out and go fishing. Do some catfishing at night. One of my favorite things that I've always liked to do. Minuteman, sorry, Grandpa. I have to la poof to get info about world issues. Okay, I don't know what that means, but fine. Love sailing San Francisco to Hawaii. Yeah, Beth, that would be a fun run. That's one of the ones I was kind of hoping to do with my boat. I was going to sail it down to Mexico and then from there out to the Marquesas, but now I'm moving to Ohio instead. Dog, get. She keeps laying down right next to the table. Kennel. Let me just put her up. There we go. All right, Darren asks, what is the best dog to save allows for? I love my bike fishing rods and Legos. What is the best dog to save his allowance for? Courtney, tell Derek that I have been a breeder of Labrador Retrievers my entire life. Labradors are, without a doubt in my mind, the best breed that there is. The word bite isn't even in their vocabulary. They're a great dog to have with kids, and I like to duck hunt, and they're great duck hunting dogs. Everything about labs I like. So to me, a Labrador Retriever, there's a reason why Labrador Retriever is the most popular dog in the world and has more registered dogs with the AKC than any other breed. It's just because they're a really good dog. So Misty said you're considering them as an employer. Misty, living out in the villages is pretty interesting, but it's pretty remote and very expensive. Living out in the villages is really, really expensive. They're not on the road system, so everything has to be flown to them, and so they get very expensive. And Uncle KK, I sank a pontoon boat. Yeah, Pensacola Bay. I tend not to go out in salt water with pontoon boats. They're not made for big waves like that. You need something with more freeboard on it. Casey asked, do I ice fish? Yes, I do ice fish. I don't plan on doing any ice fishing this winter. Maybe I'll do some. I'm really going to be focusing on building my channel this winter and trying to get lots of content. Well, I guess ice fishing would be good content. I'm just a real weenie when it comes to it. I don't like getting out on the ice. In fact, I'll tell you a funny story. I was going to visit a friend of mine, and we talked about going out on the ice and doing some fishing. And when we walked down to the edge and started walking out on the ice, we heard a lot of cracking. So we immediately scampered back up onto the shore, and we're like, oh, well, the ice must not be too thick, so we'll go back up to the cabin and worry about it later. Well, we're sitting there in this cabin looking out the window, and here comes a great big John Deere tractor dragging an ice jack across the lake. Apparently the ice was plenty thick, just we didn't know enough about it, and we walked out and heard it cracking and got scared, but it was fine. Did a lot of ice fishing actually in Montana, more than I've done up here in Alaska. Missy says you've done some work in Bethel. Okay, so you know about the villages. They're pretty good. Wayne, you said you like to fly. Do your arms get tired? Ha ha ha, pa-dum-pump. Courtney's son, who's 12, wants to know what I think about Jack Russell Terriers. Jack Russells are a lot of high energy. They're low to the ground. They're great for mousing and for weaseling. They do hunt. I mean, Jack Russell Terriers were designed to go down the rabbit holes and get rabbits. But I find them to be a little high strung for me, and they're a little small. I like a little bit bigger bottom boat. And Kitty, you said you decided you wanted a second Rottweiler. I'm not a big fan of Rottweilers. I think any dog and all dogs can at some point turn on their owners, and I think Rotties have a little bit more tendency to do that than some other breeds. Let's see, take a trip on Deadliest Catch. No, I'm going to pass on that, Teresa. I don't like being out there in that time of year. Ice fishing videos would be awesome. Well, I will work on that. What kind of fish do you ice fish for? Mostly up here, Beth, we're ice fishing for trout, but really more northern pike than anything else. There's a lot of waterlands up here. They're trying to get rid of all the pike. There's too many of them. Teresa Dean wants a German Shepherd. A lot of the German Shepherds have problems with dysplasia. It also gets in the labs in a lot of the large breeds, so be very careful of that. They've been inbred, and so they're getting problems with their bone structure on their hips. Miss Teen says, I have an English Mastiff. You know, Miss Teen, I've always thought that I wanted to have a real Mastiff, not the smaller English Mastiff, but a full-blown Mastiff. Nothing like having a 250-pound dog around. Teresa Dean, I don't float, never could just float. Okay. Yeah, a lot of bad breeders out there and a lot of puppy mills. We tend to, if I have a lab that I'm breeding, we'll do one litter maybe every year or every other year with a dog. Maybe every third year. Sorry, Grandpa, I have to disagree with you about the dogs turning. It's usually an owner problem. Yes, it usually is an owner problem, but I've seen even Labradors. One of my favorite dogs that I had in the past, a yellow dog, I mean, her name was Yellow, was a great dog, great hunting dog, in the house, family dog all the time. And we let her out one time, and her mother was out loose out in the yard, and she just went over there and tore the hell out of her mother. No reason whatsoever, but her eyes rolled back in her head, and she just went vicious. So I tend to be really careful about what breeds I work with. And some Rottweilers, I've known some pit bulls that are really sweet dogs, but I myself, I just wouldn't own one. I go with the best odds, and that's kind of why I like my my labbies. But hey, there's dogs out there for every person. That's why there's so many breeds of dogs. And I'm going to talk about one dog that I like, but there's as many. There's a reason why there's so many different breeds. So Brad says Dalmatians go blind. A lot of different dogs go blind. A lot of them have some problems. Beth says she's a lab family. Good, Beth. I like that. Being a firefighter, I've been around a lot of Dalmatians. Most of them are pretty good, but they do tend to be very territorial. So they tend to watch their ground. But I hate the deed, not the breed. There you go, Amanda. There's a good saying. Hate the deed, not the breed. Very true. I mean, we have people that don't act all that nice sometimes. So Brad's saying they have a high rate of going blind. Yeah, okay. Some breeds do that. A lot of breeds, and this is the problem. And as homesteaders, we're kind of faced with this all the time. This is the problem with having a purebred, because you deal with a limited genetic pool. Especially, labs is not so bad because there's so many of them. But in some breeds, there's so few of them, you end up with a very limited pool. And as you have that very limited pool, you tend to get a lot of line breeding and get problems in the lines, which is why it's sometimes nice to bring another breed and make. I know there's some people out there are going to hate me for this, but some people will go out there and breed two different breeds, making a mutt. But those mutts tend to be healthier dogs in the long haul because of something called hybrid vigor. And we see the same thing with our farm animals. A lot of breeders will take two different types of hogs and breed them together. They'll take a Duroc and a Yorkshire, which is probably the most common breed. They'll breed those two hogs together, and the resulting piglets will be much healthier. Courtney says, Derek, okay, Grandpa, thank you. I'll look for another dog. Hey, Derek, a Jack Russell could be fine, buddy, but do try to get a puppy. That way you can start training it yourself and it'll attach to you. Very difficult to get an adult dog and develop the kind of attachment that you get when you start out with a puppy. But I think it's admirable that you're going to the pound and trying to rescue a dog. It's a wonderful thing to do. I know we've rescued dogs. Teresa saying Dalmatians are not as nice as you think. They are not a family-friendly pet. Teresa, I won't argue with that. I'm a lab guy. Yeah, mutts tend to work out very well for a lot of folks. When I was younger, I was really into purebred all the time. My sister Marianne is, she's one of the nation's leading breeders for show labs. In fact, she used to write the column for the AKC for Labrador Retrievers and is very well known in the highfalutin circles for the show labs, which are these, fat, rotund English-style Labrador Retrievers. Personally, I think a Labrador Retriever is a hunting dog, and so you want one that can hunt, not one that's as fat as I am and lays on the couch all day. So my sister and I are at odds with that, but she always had purebred labs, and so we always had purebred labs. She's about 10 years older than me, and as a breeder, I'm really concerned about having quality dogs. Like Lily, the dog I have now, she's a beautiful dog. She really is. She's a very pretty dog, and she's a nice dog, but I would never breed her because she's got a white spot on her chest, which is a recessive trait amongst Labrador Retrievers. But in my mind, that disqualifies her for breeding and making more Labrador Retrievers. You've got to have responsibility if you're going to be a dog breeder. Okay, so we're 9 minutes past the hour. I have no problem going late. We started, 15, 18 minutes late, 20 minutes late, whatever. So we're all talking about dogs out there. Does anybody have any questions about Alaska? Dog mushing is our state sport, and some folks have asked me to put together some video footage for dog mushing. I already have a whole lot of dog mushing video in the can because, of course, my daughter was a dog musher, and we always maintained a dog kennel. She would keep about 50 dogs at all times, and trained and ran junior Iditarod, and so we were always at Iditarod and hanging out with all those guys. So if you want, I'll probably put some of that stuff in. Wheat Tree saying, run till you want, Grandpa. Okay, well, if you guys are game, I don't know how many people are going to start dropping off because they're East Coasters. But if you guys want to talk dogs or whatever you want to talk about, we can continue. I wonder how long my lag is here. I'm going to put my hand up and down, see how long it takes to come on screen. Give me an idea what my lag is. It seems like the lag builds the longer the live stream is. Grandpa, keep going. Okay, well, if you guys want me to, I will keep going. Is she the lady that lives by the river? Is that question for me? Lady that lives by the river. I'm not sure who that is. Derek says, sorry to bring up the dogs. Okay, Derek, well, you go get some sleep, buddy. We'll see you next week, hopefully. And be sure to like and subscribe to the videos, okay? All right. Besides greenhouses, how do you garden with such short seasons? You greenhouse and you do everything in raised beds. My son was talking to me about this the other day, actually. There's some things we can't grow up here. We can't grow corn in Alaska. We can't grow wheat up here because our growing season's too short. For me to grow vegetables, I build raised beds, and the reason I build a raised bed is that way it'll warm up faster. We've got to get our soil warm enough to put seeds in. So we usually don't plant until almost the 1st of June because it takes that long where I'm living to get it up there. Bumblebee, you take care. We'll see you later. And Ava wants to know how long I've lived up here. We've been up in Alaska now about 6 years, Ava. We moved up here for my daughter because she wanted to be a dog musher. So we've been up here about 6 years. The lady with the sled dogs. Mamanachi, there's a whole lot of people up here with sled dogs. Thousands of people in this area have sled dogs. A lot of them are female. A lot of females do tend to prefer getting into the sport, and a lot of them live by rivers. So it would be hard for me to say which one it is. Lady with the sled dogs lives by a river. You know, some of the bigger name dog mushers, it could be Didi Johnro. Oh, you know, you're probably thinking of Butcher. You're probably thinking of Butcher that lives, that one that I did a ride years ago. And she lives up by Fairbanks, Susan Butcher, and she's passed away. She died a couple years ago. But yeah, they did tours. So that would probably be the one you're thinking about because she's very well known, or at least she used to be. Someone asked, any preference for which lab? Yes, I prefer yellow labs. Black labs are good too. I prefer a yellow lab because it's a good color for me for going out hunting. And I find that chocolate labs tend to be kind of thick-headed. But that's just my experience, and I've only owned about, I don't know, 50 of them in my lifetime. So if that tells you anything. Mama Nietzsche lives up in Fairbanks. Yeah, well, that was her. Susan Butcher lived up in Fairbanks. She lived on the river in Fairbanks, and they would bring the tourists by on boats. And she would, from her property, she lived right on the river, and she would do a whole big presentation about dog mushing for the tourists as they were going by. Beth says, hey, I like chocolate labs. Beth, I like chocolate labs too. I have had some chocolate labs that were really good, but for the most part, I find the chocolate labs, for some reason, seem to be a bit denser than the other labs. I don't know why. Maybe it's my own prejudice on them, but most of the chocolate labs that I've owned have been pretty thick. The black labs that I've owned have all been really friendly and really nice, but yet they scare the heck out of anybody that comes to the house because they're all black and they bark at you and you don't see anything but teeth in the light. So yes, that's her name. Yeah, Susan Butcher. Okay. Yeah, chocolate labs are pretty. But like I said, I prefer my yellow. Chocolate labs and black labs, their hair is a lot more. This is lazy housekeeping time here. Their hairs are a lot less noticeable. The yellows, their hair, I have wood floors, so you don't see the yellow hair as much. The chocolate and black hairs show up really well, and it makes it really clear to everybody you're not doing a good job in vacuuming and maintaining your floors. I gotta drink something here. Hold on. Bass Family Haven, your son's going into surgery. Oh my gosh. What's he going into surgery for? Hey, everybody out. What's that, Carl? Oral surgery. Okay, so he's having his mouth work done. Well, guys, if anybody out there, let's go ahead and pray for Bass Family's child is having oral surgery. I hate oral surgery. Speaking of Tom's, is that like being a grill nation? Yeah, I like to grill. Grilling is fun. I enjoy that. In fact, I got my stuff off the boat yesterday. Man, what a mess. I had to carry all the stuff from my boat into my truck yesterday. And my boat had a lot of stuff on it. The boat, I've got a galley and I've got a head, which is you guys know of as a kitchen and a bathroom. But that galley and the head and my pillows and blankets from sleeping on the boat, all my fishing gear and my crab pots and my shrimp pots, and it was just a mess. And it was pouring rain the whole time, and it was low tide, so I had to climb up the big ramp. It was just a disaster. Hope there are no such thing as silver or white labs. The AKC and me, I only recognize 3 colors of Labrador Retrievers: chocolate, black, and yellow. That's it. If someone has a silver or a white, they bred in something that shouldn't be there, although some of the yellows do get very light in color. And then I saw a text go by I just missed. Wheat Tree, Grandpa, have you considered getting a woofer? Wheat tree, I would have a woofer if I was doing farming like I was supposed to. You know, I'm really in a mess up here because I was planning on being down in Ohio. So I didn't put a garden in this year because I didn't think I was going to be here. In fact, I didn't buy any critters for the longest time this spring because I didn't think I'd be here long enough. But then I figured out, well, it's going to take me a while to sell the property. So I got some critters so I could start doing some videos and preparing some content, knowing that if I decided to sell, or if I did sell and moved, I could simply just sell them. But I didn't put any garden in at all, so I don't really have woofer training material. You know, I don't have a lot to show them, to teach them. The animals aren't a big labor issue on the farm, and it would be unfair of me to bring in a woofer just to help me, you know, build a bathroom. That's not what woofers are for. They're there to learn agriculture and homesteading stuff, not building me a toilet. So I would not have a woofer up here. But anyhow, going back to the boat, so it was a lot of work getting everything packed, and now I have my tiny cabin, and my tiny cabin is just loaded to the gills with everything. I had no place else but to bring it in here, and now I've got stuff piled up everywhere. I literally have to move 8 or 9 things off my bed just to go to bed tonight. So I've really got to get this storage building done. Did Chris and G contact you? No, they didn't. I know Chris and G. I've been following their videos. Um, you know, they're because they did some sailing and they did some RVing, but no, I never did hear from them. I'm not really in the area that they're at. They want something probably down the Kenai, not up here where I'm at. So they should probably work with someone down there. Need someone to kill a pig? Send me the meat. Any takers? You supply the pig. I get to put. Yeah, no, sorry. Pigs up here are gold. Um, well, I just really enjoy my own pork. If any of you guys have not raised your own pig, you would have not a clue. Oh, Palmetto, that's really cool. 4-year-old daughter just sang 9-month-old son to sleep. That's awesome. If you've never raised your own pigs, you just don't have a clue how good it can be. The pork that you buy in the grocery stores is absolutely disgusting, horrible meat. It really is. It's pale. It's, you know, they actually advertise it as being the other white meat. Pork ain't white, folks. Pork is a red meat, not as red as beef, but it's a red meat. So when I raise my own pigs, I end up with this really dark red colored meat. It's not pink, you know. So what do they do in the factories? They have these pigs that they feed them corn and wheat, which makes the meat look white, and then they add color to the meat to make it look pink, so that you have pink looking hams. Otherwise, they would be too white looking. This is why the salt that's used for preserving they call it pink salt, because they actually put dye in it. And that dye and other dyes that they use to make the pig look like pork. Um, it's just garbage stuff. Raise your own pigs. It's a world of difference. Yes, they're smelly, and yes, they can be a problem. But if you raise your own pigs and then you do my recipe, and I'll put my recipe up this fall when I'm doing mine on how to make bacon, you will never go back to buying anything from the grocery store ever again. Teresa Dean, meat matters. Yes, it does. And I like my meat cooked too. I don't like eating raw meat, but I like raising my own. Palmetto wants to know why people would eat pork if they wouldn't eat a buzzard or a vulture. Well, I will admit, pigs will eat anything. I had a turkey here with a bad leg, one I was calling Gimpy. It was broad-breasted bronze. And in the cage at night, something got through it through the wire. Excuse me. And it messed up its knee, and it was having problems from then on, and it just kept getting worse and worse and worse. So finally, I put it out of its misery, and instead of throwing it in the compost pile, I just threw it to the pigs, and they of course shredded it and ate it. Pigs are just that way. But the last thing you want to do as someone who raises pigs is fall down in their pen. Pigs will flat out eat you. I have no doubt in my mind. And you're right, Hope's Homestead. Vultures do not have bacon. Arnie's saying that pork loin is not supposed to be white. Pork loin is not. No pork is supposed to be white. None of it's supposed to be white. Um, when you see the bright white fat on pork, that's because they've been feeding them wheat. If you feed them barley and some other things that I throw my pigs from time to time, table scraps and whatever, the meat comes out really red. It's because of the diet that they're feeding them that keeps everything very white colored. I mean, what they were doing, Arnie, is they were trying to make pork seem healthy like chicken. And so they were advertising pork as being the other white meat, and all the factory farms were feeding their pigs feed, trying to make the color of the meat very light colored so it looked more like chicken, with the idea that they were kidding everybody that now it's healthy because it's white. The fact is, pork is very healthy. If it's cooked fully and cooked properly, pork is very healthy. Beef is very healthy. Beef fat and pork fat are very healthy. They're good for you. The doctors and the medical professionals keep changing, supposedly what is and isn't good for you. Well, I look at the old homesteaders and the old farmers, and when you see a couple that spent their whole lives raising their family on their orchard, as I knew in Ohio, and raised their own pigs and cows and chickens, and if they bought anything from the store, it was that they bought salt, and that was about it. They bought a few things that they don't raise on their farm, or oranges or things they can't get where they live. But other than that, they were raising 90% of their food. And you see these folks living into their 90s and 100 years old because they got a lot of fresh air and they worked hard and got lots of exercise and they ate well. Well, what does that tell you? And 100 years ago, 50 years ago, even 40 years, 30 years ago, everybody wasn't getting all bent out of shape. Oh, this is bad for you and that's bad for you. We didn't have a society of people that were running scared all the time. Now it seems like everyone's scared to death to eat almost anything because they're afraid of what's in it. And the easy way to fix all that is to raise your own. What's that, Carl? Yeah, Mamanachi was commenting she can't eat salmon since she left the state of Alaska. Mamanachi, I agree with you. I'll tell you a funny story. One of the dog mushers that was winning the Iditarod a lot was invited to New York City to go do some talk at some fancy club in New York City. And he went there and they were having salmon for dinner, but they were serving dog salmon. And when he got there, of course, up here he's accustomed to eating silvers, which are without a doubt the finest dining. Folks, if you've ever pulled a silver salmon out of the river, brought it home, and then gut it, filleted it, put it on the grill with a little barbecue sauce, you can't have any finer eating than that. Anyhow, here he was in New York at this really fancy thing, and he wouldn't eat. And they were all upset because they made salmon because they thought he'd like salmon, and he's like, "Well, that's dog salmon. We feed that to the dogs. We don't eat that stuff." It's just a different, I guess, of where you're at. So, Wheatree, you get on them. People can disagree, but they got to be civil with each other. Okay, so what else are we talking about on here? Yeah, Woody was talking about cheap feed equals cheap pork, and that's very true. You are what you eat, and the animals are what you feed them. And of course, then if you eat your animals, you are whatever they ate, by extension. So it's not that simple or hard to understand that. So you've got to be very careful what animals you eat and what you're feeding your animals. Beth saying a lot of salmon is farm raised now. Yes, it is, sadly, and that's going to be a problem. That's going to come back and bite people in the butt. One of the biggest problems we run into is so much of our salmon up here is shipped to all you guys out there in the lower 48. To me, I think it's ridiculous that something should be shipped thousands of miles for folks. Folks need to learn to eat local. Up here in Alaska, I eat king crab. No problem. I love king crab. When I'm in Maine, I eat lobster because that's what you have in lobster. When you're down in Florida, you eat Caribbean lobster. You know what? When you're in Texas, you eat steak. When you're in Montana, you eat steak. If you're in Idaho, you eat potatoes. Coming up here to Alaska and expecting to eat, a nice beefsteak is ridiculous. In fact, I went to the store yesterday on my way back and tried to stop at Costco to pick up some meat, and buying the big, large cryovac whole ribeye section. It was $10 a pound. That's crazy. I mean, I could see maybe a steak in a package all trimmed up at nice $10 a pound, but not when you're buying the whole thing. Beef prices have just gone through the roof. MSG has a ton of names that they hid with it. Yeah. Yep. And the stuff that you eat, you've got to be really careful what they put into it. Don't ever buy ground beef someplace. I buy chunks of chuck meat. If I'll buy chuck roast or chuck meat and bring that home, and I'll grind it myself and make myself a burger. But I don't eat a lot of burgers because I bring the ground chuck home, or I bring the chuck home and I look at that and I say, well, why don't I just throw the chuck steak on the grill and just eat a steak? So that tends to be what I end up doing quite a bit, unless I specifically need something grazed. WeTree, the tool shed is all I've done so far is what you've seen is the foundation. I've got the material coming in, I think on Tuesday they're delivering my 2x4s and sheathing for the walls, and so I'll start putting all that up. I hope to have that done by the end of, oh boy, I'm not going to have it done by the end of the week. I'd love to. It's probably going to be at least 2 weeks to get that done, and another week to move all the stuff from the buildings into that. So 3 weeks. So in 3 weeks and 4 weeks, I'll be digging my lines and hopefully getting them covered up before it gets snow here. So really up against it. When in jail, you eat bologna. Woody, I'll bet you would eat better than that because they've sued so many municipalities over what they feed them in prison nowadays. They probably have minimums. They probably eat better than a lot of people on the outside do. Live in Tennessee, you eat possum. There you go. Hey, I lived in Ohio. We ate groundhog. I remember shooting a groundhog and skinning it and quartering it out and rolling it in some flour and frying it up in bacon grease. I like fresh fish, but not frozen crab. I agree, Teresa. Yep, fresh is where it's at, especially if you catch it yourself. Teresa says, I love pickle bologna. Pickle bologna? Beef is very expensive. Yes, it is very expensive. And, it doesn't need to be. Especially when they're grass feeding beef, it just doesn't need to be that expensive. But they weigh the ridiculous way in which they raise cows today, where they bring them onto these feedlots and they push all this grain into them, trying to get them to get as big as they can, as fast as they can, and then have to fill them full of hormones and antibacterial stuff and drugs to keep them from getting sick. It's just crazy. Absolutely crazy. Big Bear says we eat beaver. I tried beaver once. I didn't care much for beaver, but I've heard some people say it's really good. Teresa Dean, fried squirrel and gravy. Yep, I've fried squirrels before. They're pretty good. Mamanachi's asking about the mosquitoes. Mamanachi, this year has been the best year I've ever seen in Alaska for mosquitoes. Had some mosquitoes in the early part, like in April and a little bit into May, and that was it. I haven't seen a mosquito in the last month and a half. Not a single mosquito have I seen in the last month and a half. It's been awesome. Yeah, Teresa, I agree. Beaver's a little too gamey for me. If I'm going to eat, small game if I'm in Ohio, I would just shoot a deer. Although my son, who's in my ear right now, talking to me and helping me out, seems to be having a problem finding deer. So old grandpa's got to get to Ohio and show that boy how to find some. Maybe we can get him to get some meat on the table for my grandsons. Big Bear, they want to know how you cook the beaver. You cook it slowly and well. That's because they're all here in Florida, Grandpa. What's all in Florida? It's hard, Amanda, to follow so many conversations at one time and try to keep them in track with each other. Okay. Yeah, it's hard to keep all this up. You guys are going fast. Chiggers got me the other day. Ooh, I don't like chiggers. Big Bear says, ask Robin, but she can cook the tail off of it. Well, that's the whole idea. You want to cook it so the meat falls off the bone. And why would you want the tail anyway? Well, actually, I understand beaver tail is pretty good, actually, come to think of it. I've heard people talk about that. My son has an amusing beaver story when he was fly fishing, and I was teaching him to fly fishing on our pond there in Ohio. He was standing there fly fishing, and a beaver snuck up behind him, and he took off running. Remember that, Carl? Yeah. Okay, well, guys, we're at 6:30. I think we probably should. I'm sorry, Carl. What was that? 10:30 on the East Coast. Yeah, my son in Ohio says 10:30 there. So why don't we go ahead and call it? I'm sorry, my live feed was all messed up this morning. I don't know why my camera all of a sudden came back to work. That is just so odd. It's not at all, and it's not even positioned where it's supposed to. I don't know what happened. I'm going to have to figure this out, and I'm going to probably spend this whole week working on it. So at least we finally got some video to go along with stuff, even if my lag is really well behind. So Big Bear is up. Everybody wants to. You can. Is Big Bear, you going to do late night? Big Bear going to stay up till midnight and keep talking to folks? Is that what the plan is? Uh-oh, Big Bear's going to have an insomnia party over on his channel, and they're going to talk about boobs. So, guys, you might want to get over there and get your boob on. We were talking about T-shirts the other day. Wheatree says, thank you, Carl Jr. Yes, son. Thank you very much. They were talking about T-shirts over at Big Bear's and having special T-shirts made up. And you know how they put like a picture or something, a saying on the pocket or on the front of the shirt? I was telling them that they should do those in Braille. So that'll set the tone for the conversation going over to Big Bear's. You guys can do the all-nighter with him and talk about tacos. All right, guys. Well, I'm gonna shut this off now. Thank you, guys. I really appreciate it. Sorry the show got a little messed up. I will have things perfect next week, or at least I will try. So if unless there's any other questions, I'm going to go ahead and end this here and see if you guys will make sure you jump down there and subscribe, give us a thumbs up, and all that kind of happy horse stuff. We'll see you guys next week. Thanks, everybody. I really appreciate it.